Hi, everybody. It's Trish Carr with Women's Prosperity Network, and I am so excited to see you here with me today. I am so excited. I always am. First of all, it's Friday, and I know you may be watching this and it's another day, but just for the moment, put yourself in a Friday head. So everybody's in a good mood on Fridays. Even though we're working tomorrow, it's funny about Friday. Anyway, it's great to see you. I'm happy to have you with me. We're going to be here for about 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most. And join me. Get your delicious cup of coffee or something to sit with and enjoy while we have a great conversation. And the Be Real, Get Real podcast is about just that. Being real, getting real. And when you do that, you achieve real results. And today, my guest is an amazing entrepreneur. She is an automation specialist, which means she knows everything about what buttons to push to get things to happen for you in your business. And, it's funny that her business, well, we'll get into it, but she lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. She's an amazing woman, and she's also an Air Force veteran. We are so honored to have so many veterans within the Women's Prosperity Network community. And Rita Thomas is an amazing woman who enjoys serving professionals. She is the proud mother of 2 grown children and Oma to 4 grandchildren. And as I mentioned, she is an Air Force veteran. And that's what I'd like to get into today. So let's welcome Rita Thomas. So good to see you. How are you today?
I am very, very good. Thank you. Oh,
What's the matter?
do you hear?
I do. I hear some background.
Wow.
What do you think that's coming from?
I don't know. Is it me? Oh, okay. It's better now. Okay,
It's
great.
gone now, yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. What an honor. Thank you so much, Trish, for having me on Be Real, Get Real podcast.
Yes, well, absolutely. And I really, really do want to honor your Air Force service. Whenever we meet a veteran or someone who's currently in the service, the first words out of people's mouths are, "Thank you for your service." And yet, that seems so hollow. It's thank you for putting your personal life on hold so that you could leave your family for years to make sure that I live in a place that's safe, to make sure that my children can grow up. You give up your life. So thank you for your service is just not enough. And I don't know what the right words are, but Rita, seriously, like that is a huge, huge sacrifice that you did to be in the Air Force.
Well, and thank you. And I'll tell you, I feel it, and I get teary now because when I meet World War II vets and Korean vets and Vietnam vets, and they really went through something. I was blessed to serve all during peacetime. And I can't imagine what they went through. And I do thank them for their service because they did so much more. They gave and gave and gave when they thought they couldn't give anymore. And they did it for us. And I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many people are still doing it today? Right? No matter what, there's always conflicts that our servicemen and women are involved in. Always. It's unfortunate, but it is true. So how did that all come about that you joined the Air Force? And you were probably young, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was really young. So I lived in Ohio in a small town. We had a small farm and my parents were factory workers. And I'll tell you, here's the funny thing about how I decided to join the military. First of all, my dad was in the Air Force and I had an uncle in every other service. And and my dad was the youngest and they all told him from after they went through their experiences, if you join anything but the Air Force, we're going to kick your butt because they knew the Air Force had the best life because they'd all been through it. And so my dad
always... you hear about the Air Force as having the best life. Like, Okay, so if you liken it to prison, it's like a white collar prison. Whereas the Marines are like dirty, on the ground, going under wires, right? So I do hear the Air Force is where to go.
Yeah. So, and part of it is that's the youngest service. Well, now we have the Space Force, so now that's the youngest service. But the Air Force has always been the youngest service. So, not steeped in a lot of this really old tradition of how things had to be. It
Right.
was formulated in the age of technology and the age of people having responsibility for themselves. That was something I noticed when I was stationed, not on Air Force Base, which was sad. But I saw how the other services lived and how they conducted their business of being in the military. For example, when once a month probably, we had a commander's call. So the commander of the squadron, the commander of the platoon, whatever, would bring everybody together and tell them, this is what's happening. Here's some news. Here's some required things that are happening. Just some meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Army, that's why I was on an Army base. They had one commander's call and everybody had to go. Well, we all worked shift work. So we were sleeping during the day, or we were getting ready to go to work or at work. Pretty much you're sleeping or getting ready to go to work or at work. And it was this horrible rotating shift. And so the poor Army people, if they weren't at work, they had to be at commander's call. And even if they were on break. And a break is like a weekend, but it rotates all around because you're on the shift. They had to be at commander's call. And the Air Force, they had 4 commander's calls. And he said the same thing 4 times so that we could be asleep when we needed to be asleep. And on break, he timed it so the breaks would end and you could attend one when you got done with your break. Or whatever the other reason is, if you weren't actually at work, then you could go to one that was convenient for you. And that's
my kind of commander.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But that's the way the Air Force it's kind of like a whole mentality of, you are a responsible adult. We respect your knowledge and your intelligence and your will to be here. And so we will do what we can. Of course, the Air Force didn't let people run around willy-nilly. And there were orders and there was a command. I mean, we were in the military.
Right. No question. You were in the military.
Yeah. So, someone told me this, an older vet told me this. They said, here's how the difference between the Air Force and the other services. So like when they started sending troops to Vietnam, and they had to build a base for the troops to be, and the Army would go in and they would, or the Marines, they would build a base and they would build a chow hall and a barracks and an airstrip and a motor pool and all the things that you need. Right. And then they would say to Congress, could we have some money for a club or a swimming pool or something so people can relax? And they would say, no, you don't need that. So they said the Air Force would go in and they would probably build a dorm. See, we called it a dorm and not a barracks.
That's
and a dining facility, not
a mess hall.
Mm-hmm. And a pool and a club. And then we would go to Congress and say, we need some more money because we need an airstrip and we need.
Oh, so smart.
And that's a joke, really. But they put the welfare of the person high in their way they conducted business. But I'll tell you too, and I'm not here to trash any service or say that one's better than the other, because they all serve a purpose. Like the Navy is on the water. The Marines, they are the first in. The Army is the ground. I mean, they're groundswell troops, and they get the job done. And so we all have, and we're in the air, obviously, and on the airwaves. I was on the airwaves, and so we all have a service to provide. And we're all critical. Not one service could survive without the others. And the country could not survive without all four of them.
All of them.
Or five, I'm sorry, the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, right. Let's remember the Coast Guard. So was it because of your family, being a military family, it was just a given you were going to go into the service?
That's the hilarious thing. If you would have asked me a week before I decided to join, do you think you'll ever join the military? I would say, I don't think so. And I am a rule follower. I'm a compliant person. I like following rules, and but I just never thought I would join the military. I didn't think about it ever. But I worked and I had part-time jobs. I worked in a steakhouse as a waitress, and I worked in a department store as a cashier. And I was out of high school. But my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I didn't make enough money to go, and yet they made too much money for me to get grants and loans.
Yeah.
Right? So I was stuck right in there. And I thought, that's fine. That's fine. I'm resilient. I'll figure life out. I'm smart, and I'll figure it out. And I worked in the steakhouse, and we worked with a woman that was older than all of us. We're all like 19, 20.
And she was what, 32?
I didn't know how old she was, but she was old. So probably 40, maybe even mid 40s, but something to us, it seemed like, wow, how does she get here without a walker every day, right? So, but here's the thing. She worked so hard, and she was kind of like a mom to us at work. But her back always hurt. Her feet always hurt. And I could just tell it was just really physically hard for her to be there and do that kind of work. And I always did notice that about her, and we helped her out when we could. And I worked with her for probably a year and a half. And one day, out of the blue, all of a sudden, I saw her like I had never seen her before. It was just short of a light from heaven going, oh, shining on her, right? And I saw my future standing right there. And I knew if I stayed in Marion, Ohio, working at that steakhouse and at that department store, this is my future. And it scared me to death just because I felt like I wanted to leave. I wanted to go see the world. I'm adventurous. I love to travel. And so I didn't want to, I wanted to see what else I could do besides what I had already done. Knowing that I wasn't going to go to college, that very night I said, oh, I'm going to join the Air Force. And you would think it might be a really patriotic reason. I was also patriotic, of course. But I had heard good things from my dad about it. I knew that you would get trained for a job and that you would have a place to live. And I knew that it was the best thing for me. And so that was a Friday night. And so that Friday night, I called the recruiter. I thought that people in the military work all the time. Like you see on TV, like MASH.
No, that's entrepreneurs.
Yeah, entrepreneurs. So over the weekend, he didn't call me back. So I left more messages, and I thought, why is this guy not calling me back? Well, the poor guy on Monday morning when he got to work, he had probably 8 voicemail messages from this girl that just insisted she had to join the Air Force. And so I had everything I needed, good grades, and I had a clean police record. And so they, I did the testing to get in and qualified. So there's a whole story about how I got to become a Czechoslovak linguist.
Yeah, I know. It was so weird. Last year, my girlfriend was writing a book, and she had this material that she got from Czechoslovakia. And I said, Rita, do you know anybody? And she goes, I speak Czech. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So what a language.
Oh, and what a people. I'll tell you. They are in the prime location in Europe to be overrun constantly. Like in the whole history of this land, it used to be Prussia also.
Right.
And they were just invaded constantly because it was a prime location for power and for resources. And I learned so much about their history. And at the time I learned the language in the 80s, They had only ruled their own country for 22 years in all of history.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
They've always had to fight. And of course, in the 80s, it wasn't that long after the 60s when Russia rolled in.
Right.
And I remember saying to my teachers, I didn't understand, why would you let someone just take over your country like that? Why would you, of course, being a snarky young person, right? Why would you let that happen? And they told us, they said, listen, we went to bed one night and everything was normal. We woke up in the morning and there were tanks everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
you don't fight that. But they did fight. They fought their own way. Like in that country at that time, they had the road signs where it would say, Munich this way and, Bratislava that way and, Prague that way. And so they took those signs and turned them all around. So the tanks got lost
That's
and they
great.
couldn't go where they're supposed to be. And then the Russian soldiers, the Russians are notorious for pushing their people out beyond their what they can supply, but beyond their supply lines. And so
Yeah.
their soldiers were very hungry and didn't have the resources they needed. And so the soldiers, but they were also limited to literally a line on the ground where they couldn't cross the line. And the Czechs, my teachers, they told us, they were teenagers then, and they'd have this big hero sandwich loaded with meat and cheese, and they would stand right outside that line and eat
And
that sandwich. And then they would eat only about half of it and throw it down on the ground right outside the line and walk away. So they did all kinds of stuff to torture the Russians. So that was the only way they had to fight back. But yeah, Russia
So
invaded.
now when you hear about Ukraine, it all makes so much sense to you because of your background there.
It is playing out for me on TV, what I picture. Now, the Czechs didn't even have the resources to fight back like the Ukrainians do now.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and the takeover of Czechoslovakia was so complete and so complete overnight that the Czechs didn't. They
couldn't fight back, right?
Fight. But watching what's happening in Ukraine is like history repeating itself.
Absolutely.
It's very sad for me to see, but I love the support that they're getting. And that president, oh my gosh, he is really, I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah. It's amazing. You and I can talk history all day long for sure. How long were you in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force 9 years, exactly to the day.
Wow.
And that's neat too, because most people, like I joined on June 1st and I got out on May 31st. And most people, that doesn't happen for them. There's some.
Happy anniversary. We're right around that time.
Oh, June 1st. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, it was the best decision I ever made. I learned so much about myself. I grew up into an adult. I learned so much about my country and patriotism and our military history and what some of these veterans went through as well. But I'll tell you, the self-discipline and the things I learned about myself were priceless. And I learned a foreign language, 4 years of college level language in 1 year.
Wow.
Mm.
And look at how, now when I look at your journey, I knew you as a photographer and you were doing, until you realized as a business owner, as a photographer, that automation could change your life as a business owner. And then tell us a little bit about that, because I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to connect with you. And I know you are so brilliant when it comes to automation. And truthfully, that's the area that stops so many people. So I know that you have a free gift that you give people so they can learn from you. So tell me a little bit about why automation. What was it about that became your passion?
Yeah. So, and my first love is photography. And I learned to use a camera at a young age and I loved it. And in the 2000s, I started a business, a photography business, and I did event photography businesses, their products, their headshots, everything they needed to market their business marketing. And I had a day job the whole time. And part of the time I had a part-time job as well. So a family, obviously, a a full-time job, a part-time job, and a business. And really what happened was my day job took the best of me, and my business got the rest of me, and my family got the crumbs that were left over.
Yeah.
And this went on for not just a couple years. This went on for 12 years because I am really stubborn and I don't give up. And having a business of my own it was such a deep, strong desire of mine. I knew it was not wrong. I had to do this. And you hear people say on your deathbed, you only regret the things you didn't do. And that there's no dress rehearsal, you only get one life, all those platitudes. And I said, I have to do this, but I couldn't figure out how because so little of my time I could devote to building my business. And then I was on the revenue roller coaster. So one month I would make money. Next month I didn't make any money, but I was delivering on the promise that I had made. And it was maddening. So I found that you can automate some of the processes, the administrative, clerical things, answering the same questions over and over and over and over and over. You can automate some of that, and you can build a business that part of it runs in the background while you're doing something else. Now, for me, that was being at my day job. My business was still running in the background. That allowed me to make more steady income because some of those tasks were being done and people were paying me even while I was at work. And then I was able to raise the income level, keep it steady until after I found the coaching with WPN and the automation software that I used to make all that happen. After 12 years of struggle, I was able to quit my job in only 10 months.
I love it. I love hearing that.
I love it too. And I mean, WPN is huge. There's something really, really important about both of those, though. If you're listening to me saying, oh, I'm going to do that, you have to be coachable. You have to do what your coach says, even if you're uncomfortable, even if you don't know the outcome you're going to get, just do what they say because they know. And when you buy a software package to run your business with, you have to use it every day. You have to use it to run your business. And there is generally a learning curve. I offer a whole lot of free support and training for people that buy software from me. And I am happy to do that because I know how it can change your life. The automation software, when I found it, it saved my sanity as well as my business.
Yes,
I was going to bed at night, trying not to fall all the way completely asleep because I was afraid if I did, I would forget something because I had everything in my head. And if you try not to fall all the way asleep for several years in a row, that is not, because then you're not doing any of the stuff during the day very well because you're deprived of sleep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're getting a good night's sleep now.
Yes.
And how long has it been now that you've been in your business full time?
Oh, September 23rd of 2021. So in September, it'll be 2 years full time in my business of this year.
Well, I'll always remember that date because it is Bruce Springsteen's birthday.
I love that.
September 23rd, 2021. Wow, how time flies. And I'm so impressed with what you've been able to accomplish, how many people you've been able to serve. And one of the ways you do that is with your Q&A and your tech coaching that you do on a regular basis. So I know that you wanted to invite everybody to have an opportunity to do that. Just tell us a little bit about it.
Yes. So I have a membership. It's called Automation Nation. And we learn all of the things that are related to the CRM and the funnels and integrating different systems, making things happen for you in the background. And we have office hours twice a month. And I have, when you're in Automation Nation, you also can email me anytime questions that you have, and I'll just email you an answer right back. Well, as soon as I can. And I'm building a video library, so you'll be able to have on-demand videos to learn whatever it is you need. And I am actually the funnel godmother. I'm the funnel.
Yes, you are.
So there, I have a crown. It's
Yes, you
official.
do.
And I'm a big hand holder. I love holding your hand, making sure that you are not crying in your keyboard, thinking you're no good as a business owner, because you are. What you have to offer, your zone of genius, is probably not in these automated systems and making it all work, but you need to be able to do those things to get the word out, satisfy your clients, bring in leads, do all those things. You got to be doing 17 things at one time every day, all the time. And so let some of those things be done for you. And that way you can do what's uniquely you, like meeting new people, making the sale, being on stage, delivering material.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Good sage advice from the funnel godmother.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rita, so much for sharing your story. And again, thank you for your service is not enough. And regardless of whether it was peacetime or not, at any moment, you could have been called to battle. So thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being such an amazing contributor to Women's Prosperity Network and to all of our members and our guests. Rita is one of our content experts, specifically in the area of automation. So just keep checking back. She's always sharing content, doing webinars. You are just incredible. And I'm so happy for you. And I can't believe it's almost 2 years. I should believe it. I mean, you're so, I can't think of you as anything else now but the funnel godmother. So, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And thank you, Trish.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and for enjoying the conversation today. Appreciate all of you. Remember, when you are real, when you be real with people and you get real, you can get amazing results. We'll see you next time on another episode of Be Real, Get Real with Women's Prosperity Network. Bye-bye, everybody.